In this activity, we are going to determine the pH of these 3 household chemicals. In the process, you are going to learn how to use your xploer GLX to collect discrete data points, one for each of the chemicals, in a sampling mode we called manual sampling. During manual sampling, you will also label each of the pH data points with the corresponding chemical name. We will display this information in a 2-column table on the xploer GLX, then add a 3rd column to the table so that we can classify each of the chemicals as an acid or a base. But before we do any of that, we are going to calibrate the sensor to ensure the accuracy of our measurements. A lot of good stuff in this activity. So, grab everything you need, turn on your xploer GLX or open a new data file, and let's get started. Start out by plugging in your Passport pH sensor into the top of any one of the 4 ports on the xploer GLX. And we are not interested in pH versus time, so let's go to the home screen. Okay, because what we want to do is a number of things with the sensor, we are going to go to our sensor screen. So that you can do by pushing the F4 button. There are 3 things we need to do in this screen. First, calibrate the sensor. Second, set it up for manual sampling. And finally, we are going to show you how to use that reduce smooth/smooth averaging field in this screen here. Okay, to calibrate, we need to get to the calibration screen, which you do through the sensors menu. So push the F4 button to open that, and you see item 3 there is calibrate. Let's select it. The xploer GLX offers a variety of ways to calibrate your sensor. Fortunately, it defaults to the most common type of calibration for the sensor that you have connected. If you're interested in learning more about the types of calibrations you can do with your xploer GLX, you will want to refer to your xploer GLX User's Manual. We are going to do a 2-point calibration. Now, during a 2-point calibration, you put the sensor in the first of 2 standards. We are using buffer solutions, one at pH 4 and the other at pH 10. So you put the sensor probe into the first of the 2 solutions and tell the xploer GLX to read the raw value from the sensor and report it as the known value of the standard. Let me show you what I mean. Let's go ahead and take this and put it into our first solution. And then I'm going to have you, actually let's hold on to this right here. First let's scroll down to the bottom of this calibration screen. And you know you're at the bottom because you see only that up arrow there. Take a look at the last 4 fields there. You see that there are 2 each related to each of the 2 points that we use for the calibration. In the first of those 2 fields, we tell the xploer GLX the value of the pH standard that we are using. In the second field, there, we tell the xploer GLX which raw value from the sensor it needs to associate with that standard. How do you know what raw value to stick there? Okay, now let's stick this into our, let me rinse it off, into our buffer solution. Okay, it's actually quite easy, and it's not that value 4 that you see in there currently. Take a look near the bottom of the screen. There are 2 live readings there. The one on the right, labeled units, is the raw value that the xploer GLX sees from the sensor. That is the value that we want to put in that second field, also labeled units. Before we do that, let me point something else out to you. The reading on the left there is the actual pH value that the xploer GLX is reporting to us, which is 4.4, significantly above the value we know it to be, which is 4.0. That is what we would get, however, if we left that second field at 4. So let's change it. And the developers have made this easy for us to do. all you have to do is push the F3 button, which you see lets the Explorer GLX read point 1. So push it, and now you see that that value has transferred into the field. And now all that's left to do is to repeat this for our second point. So we will put our probe into our pH 10 buffer solution, and we need to first tell the Explorer GLX that this is a pH 10 solution, not 7 like it says there. So push the check mark and type in 10 and push the check mark again to accept that change. Okay, transfer the value that it sees there, which is 10.11 for the raw units, into that second field by pushing not the F3 button, but this time the F4 button, which lets the Explorer GLX read point 2. And when you do that, you see that our live reading is now the correct one. So we have just finished calibrating. You don't think so? Just 2 points? Okay, all we need is 2 points, because for all the other points in between, because the nature of the calibration is linear, the Explorer GLX can interpolate and extrapolate all the values in between and beyond the 2 points here. So yes, we are done with calibration. So push the F1 key to say OK. All right, the next thing we need to do is set up for manual sampling. Manual sampling is a data collection mode. Up until now, you've seen continuous sampling. That's the one with the moving clock that you see as the sample indicator on the top bar. During continuous sampling, the Explorer GLX automatically continuously samples data points at the sample rate that the sensor is set up. Now, for manual sampling, you tell the Explorer GLX to record one data point by the push of a button, and besides that, it comes back and prompts you to associate a value with that data point. So we need to change the sampling mode, and if you look, F1 will open our mode menu, and there it is, the second item on there, manual, and notice that it has a flag next to it. Push the check mark to accept that, and when you do, a new screen opens. This is a data property screen for keyboard data. So this is where you might want to pull out your keyboard if you have a compatible one. Not, actually is keypad data is fine. If you do have a keyboard, go ahead and plug it into the lower of the 2 USB ports on the right side of your Explorer GLX. And the key mapping from the keypad to the keyboard is actually pretty intuitive. But if you have any questions about it, you can refer to your user's guide. Okay, this is where we tell the Explorer GLX what we want to associate with that pH data point. And what we want to associate is the chemical name. So we're going to change that measurement name from keyboard data to chemical name, or just chemical should be fine. Push the check mark to accept that, or to begin editing, or if you're using a keyboard, push the enter key. And let's type in chemical using the multi-press text entry method by typing C and H, E, M. See how fast we can get at this. I, C, A, and L. Did we get that right? Oh, we forgot a C, didn't we? Scroll over and type in, let's see if we can get that in the right spot. B, C. There we go. Check mark to accept that change. We don't have to worry about units or anything else, so push the F1 key, OK, to leave that screen. Now we're set up for manual sampling. And the last thing to do here is to explain to you what the reduce/smooth averaging field is. Now, if we were good experimenters, we would not record just one data point for each sample. We would determine several data points, average them, and report that average as the pH of our sample. That's what that field is for. So we can tell the Explorer GLX to do that for us. And the only thing we have to do is tell it how many points we want it to use to calculate the average. So let's scroll down to that field with the arrow key, push the check mark to open up our options there, and let's select, say, 5 points, and check mark. So we are just about ready to collect data. We have calibrated, we have set up for manual sampling, and we are now averaging. Let's go back to the home screen and decide how we want to display this information.